Hello and welcome. It's Andy from Twisted Narrative here, and welcome back to Shadowdark, Times Undreamed of. And it's an interesting one. We played an escape episode, a prologue, not quite a gauntlet, last Sunday night. I had a blast. I really wanted to run more of this, and I asked if everybody else was up for it, and I am joined by the marvelous people that you can see in front of you. So a big thank you for rejoining me again. If you haven't seen that one, please check it out. It's on our channel now. Go down there and you can see the origins of this group coming together. But before we delve into the game, I like them to introduce themselves so we get familiar. So we'll start off with you, Natasha.
Hello, my name is Natasha. I live in the Netherlands. I know Andy since about 2017 when I joined one of his 24 hours Dungeons and Dragons games. And yes, that is indeed 24 hours in a row.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was an amazing experience for a new Dungeons and Dragons player.
Hey, we like to do crazy at Twisted Narrative. Thank you very much for joining us again. I move to Matt.
Hello, I am Matt, a good friend of Andy's and a collaborator and co-writer, working with him on bringing some of the adventures that he's been running for a long time to hopefully publication, and including this after I've played it, because I have no idea what's going to happen, and some other things coming out very soon. So.
Yeah, we've got some super projects on the boil. Last but not least, Malcolm.
Good evening, all. Yes, and thank you. You'll have seen me in perhaps other of Andy's work. I've become a bit of a Shadowdark addict. Might be the right word.
I think
And
so.
I'm loving the different flavours of it. I knew Kelsey in the Arcane Library from some of her work she did early on in 5th edition, which, as many of us, we will have also been playing. So, looking forward to doing a little more with new characters.
Yeah, and yeah, this is Shadowdark. I've been loving it. I think everybody in our community is going, "Shut up, Andy," about Shadowdark. But no, I'm passionate about it, and it's kind of strange. There's a reason for that. Genuinely, reason for it is that it's allowing me to relive my youth, the literal fun of very first getting hold of role playing and discovering it for the very first time. And it's kind of strange because it's got modern mechanics, so it doesn't play mechanically anything like those old school games, but it has that feel, and I'm just really loving the creativity that Shadowdark is allowing me to sort of run some games. Anyway, enough of that. Enough of talking about it. Let's actually play this. And as I say, this is a campaign of sorts, but we're not doing episodes. We're kind of doing a load of linked one shots. So you don't need to know what happened before, but you can go and check it out should you wish to. So without further ado, torches spewing out more black smoke than light struggle against the evergloom of the wet warrens of Ior, a labyrinth of open sewers and cesspools, a place where the innocent and virtuous, admittedly few and far between in this city, avoid. As the wet, for all its stench, is where the thieves of Ior hold court. One might have thought for a heartbeat that the rogues of the wet might have stuck to the shadows, but even here the Shadowdark was to be respected, to be feared. So, with certain protections purchased using blood-stained coins, the cutthroats, burglars, and worse could carouse openly, and their revels were legendary. Amongst this carnival of carousing, two figures, heavily clad in muddy woolen cloaks, navigate the teeming crooked alleys, undeterred by the foul ground no more than streams of effluent and puddles of thick mud. They push on through the crowds of debauchery. Their destination is one of countless drinking dens of this wretched district. Descending the steps, neither the smell or the noise improved. The scent of open sewers now infused with the aromas of stale sweat, cheap wine, and vomit. Roars of laughter and blasphemous songs with words that would have made even Shuni the Vile blush cover more nefarious deals, pacts being made. Dogs from half a dozen nations here are deep in their cups, golden-eyed Valthea with daggers ever ready. There was a giant Daldanian outcast, fair-skinned, brooding, with a battle-axe strapped to her great, full-figured frame, for steel is openly worn in the wet. She arm-wrestling a scrawny, almost rat-like Veresh for a ruby the size of an infant's skull. Eventually their eyes found their mark, 3 figures huddled in an out-of-the-way alcove. And that, my friends, is you. As they catch you, they've never met you, they've heard of you. What do they see? We'll start off with you, Roja. What do they see?
Roger imagines that Thorsten will be squeezed in between Drago and himself. And Roger has a shield on his back and 2 swords, a great sword and a long sword that he has retained from their previous adventure, clad in somewhat battered leather armor, and he's put his 1 foot and his back leg up on a empty chair next to the table, and just appears completely relaxed with an enormous stein of beer in front of him.
Beautiful.
Wavy dark hair, Van Dyke beard and mustache.
Nice.
Ruggedly handsome.
And this time we'll move down to Thorsten. What do they make of you?
Thorsten is a dwarf, but unlike your typical image, is a scrawny, lightweight dwarf. This is not a physical presence in any way, shape, or form. Wears the lightest of armor that might quite just qualify as leathers. Prefers to be nimble and quick. Maybe is the first to notice things happen in the bar. Nervously holding a mug.
Yeah, and things are happening, all sorts, from all sorts of debauched and heavily drunken individuals. Drago, they spy you as well.
So Drago is quite a tall and broad half-orc, with a very kind of the sort of face that you'd expect to find on a half-orc, with tusks jutting out from his lower jaw, and dark hair gathered into kind of a Ronin-style top knot. But there's a hunch to his figure, and his voice, when you hear it, is not the sort of voice you would expect to hear from that frame. And he's clad in sort of green and brown robes, not quite sort of full-on priest robes, but there's something quite simple in his garb, and he quickly ditched the full-length robes for the basis of it's pretty soggy down here, so they were getting wet all the time. So he's in kind of basic tunic, but with a hood and his pack by his side, and just a staff leaning kind of at his shoulder, ready to be used if needed.
Perfect. You see these 2 individuals, one tall, standing maybe close to 6 feet, the other one much smaller, no taller than 5 feet, carefully, almost as if they are trying to avoid a corridor of deadly traps as they carefully move through, attempting not to spill a cup of wine or insult or catch the eye of any rogue within this house. They are heavily clad, though, as I say, in these woolen robes and woolen cloaks, and the hoods pulled over them like spectres in the night. They move through this, and they find themselves at your table. The taller speaks. Please tell me, and speak truly. Are you truly the ones that escaped the dungeons of the Priest King? Huh? I am no. Please let it be. Satisfy me.
Could you be asking? Says Thornston. He really is.
He begins to lift his hood, and there is a human face, very old, sort of deep bags under the eyes, and the eyes are reddish. A long beard of grey, straggly hair. My name is Boreas. I am a scholar, and this is my apprentice. Books boy. Kind of reaches under the robe, and a journal is passed to him. If it is true, he looks left and right. If you manage to escape the unescapable, then perhaps, just perhaps, I can offer you a task, a job that will fill your pouches with gold. What do you say? At least listen to my story.
Well, I kind of need a bit of gold in order to get some decent armor, so I'm willing to listen.
No harm in listening, I suppose.
Indeed.
Take a seat, sirs. You are standing out in the crowd. That
This
might
is
not be wise.
not a place we are overly familiar with. It cost me much, many bribes to even discover you.
As my friend says, sit down, let's talk.
He sits down. He pulls his hood slightly up again so that people behind him can't overly see. Seems to be very conscious of the fact that he doesn't belong here, and it's fairly obvious he doesn't belong here. I am a scholar, a historian of sorts. Histories tell you much, do they not? And he kind of turns the journal pages, licking his fingers, and carefully you see that the journal is crammed full of writing, as if a spider had wriggled across the page, and whilst it is in common, the writing is such a scrawl of madness, it is somewhat difficult to make out the words, especially in this dim light. Here it is, here it is. Now, there was, if you are not, if you are not resident in this place, if you are new to this place, then perhaps these tales are new to your ears, but maybe not. About 50 years ago, the wet here was not like this at all. The majority of it was ruled, was controlled by, a gang of organized criminals, and wealthy were they. They went by the name of the Red Masks, for, simply put, they wore red masks. But 50 or so years ago, they just to exist, and over time things became like this. There were many thefts, many robberies of incredible daring, and items of great value that disappeared in the night, all put down to the masks. I think I have uncovered their den, the place that they operated from here in the wet, and I am not in my youth. Not in my youth. I need capable people, people that escaped the unescapable to investigate for me, to see if this is right, and to bring out a particular trinket that, if you find there, I put claim to. Everything else is yours. Everything. Yes. That is a deal, is it not?
It's an offer, certainly. What's the
I,
thing you're looking for?
it is important, just a trinket, something of a personal interest to me for my studies, a book. But I'm sure it would have been no use to you. Hmm? Hmm? Do any of you read even?
Oh, I
Sorry,
read.
no insult. No insult meant. Everybody's blood is so hot down here. Amazing with it being so wet.
Well, I, for one, am intrigued, grandfather.
I like that name. I perhaps will use that. It makes me feel
I
like
hope it's a place that I can walk into upright. I mean, crawling is a bit of a bother, and Rogar wiggles his back leg above the table.
I have no idea, but I believe I have located a secret entrance to their base of operations, and well, if you agree, I will guide you there, and then it is up to you to discover what lies beneath. I cannot tell you much more than they indeed were hugely successful. A faction of great influence and power in Ibayor 50 or so years ago, and then, well, simply wiped from the city.
What
And
is
yet,
your... Go on, my friend.
and yet you think you have found the resting place of all their last treasures. They wouldn't have taken them where they've gone.
Well, the one thing we can be sure about is your both hearing and understanding are acute. Yes, indeed, Master Thorsten.
You knew my name, sir.
I
At this point, a dagger appears in his hand. Thorsten is disturbed by this stranger knowing his name.
I mean, are you sure you wish to pull such a blade in this place here? They might, everybody might get the wrong. Oh, no one's paying any kind of attention at all, are they? Oh dear.
No.
Yes, I know your name. I know much about all of you. I am. I find things. Hence, I have found something that can make us. Well, can make you rich.
So basically, the reward you offer us is what we can carry out of this hideout, not necessarily what you have in your money pouch. Am I correct?
Well, if you prefer instead for me to offer what I have in my money pouch, then we could do that instead.
Thorsten almost interrupts, instinctively thinking, This man will not have much in his money pouch if he has come here. He is not comfortable coming here. Boreal, I believe your name was, sir.
Yes, indeed. Although I do like grandfather, it makes me sound like head of the table.
Perhaps not at a table in such an establishment as this.
Ah,
However, the Red Masks, the history, been a member of organisations smaller, as you say, more chaotic since, intrigues me greatly, and I would endeavour to take upon an opportunity to make some wealth from history.
splendid, splendid. We have an accord then.
And the dagger disappears back up his sleeve.
Yes, I'm into.
And me.
Well, uh, do you need time to prepare, or do you just wish to drain your cups? And as I said, they used to frequent the wet, so if I am indeed right, it should not be too far from here where we need to start.
I think I have all I need.
Yeah, me too. I just carry it anywhere I want to go, just
Splendid.
in case.
We are comfortable travelling light and quickly. It's
Well,
become a necessity.
I mean the good news is that the tales of your escape from the Priestkind's dungeons are scant and few. It took me all of my talents to uncover that, so you do not need to worry about the Priest King's guards trying to seek you out. There are many more, so much easier taken to fill the arenas. I just wish you to put those thoughts away, and you can then perhaps focus on the future instead.
One more question before we go anywhere.
I wish you to be forewarned and forearmed.
Who do you represent? Who do you work for or with?
There is, at that moment, you catch him somewhat off kilter, off
Mhm.
guard, and he sort of, oh, oh, and he kind of looks at the apprentice, the smaller figure that has been very silent and unmoving here, and it kind of gives it a little bit away that you actually think that that is no apprentice. That is probably the person who is working for.
We've been terribly lax on introductions, I suppose, but it seems you know all of our names. Your young friend here, however,
I'm
seems.
just an apprentice, someone of no importance whatsoever.
Hmm.
Oh, I see. Okay. Sorry, mistress. Um, he sort of babbles a little bit and hums and haws, and at that point, she sort of raises her hood a little bit, and you see there is a sort of olive-skinned, very young uh, woman underneath there, probably no more than late teens, early 20s. Difficult to tell here. Sort of clad very much like a apprentice, um, no sort of armor or anything else, and is wearing boyish clothes. Then she looks at you and says, "Well, you are as sharp as the blades as you carry, are you not? My name is Vaigita. So, it is difficult to say, for there is little proof, but I believe my blood is the blood of the leader of the masks. I believe that the head of their organization is my grandmother, or would have been my grandmother by birth. It is difficult to say. The tome that he, and she looks a little bit annoyed with, speaks of is the journal, the private diaries of who I believe to be my grandmother. Her name is Nabertari. That name perhaps rings a bell, especially if you have thieving connections within the city. I hope her private journal to prove my heritage, and
I see.
not only is what you take from there, I guess, the new leader of the to be formed Red Masks will look favourably upon you. I have people that are willing to support me, but I need to prove sometimes blood is even thicker than talent.
Mm-hmm.
That seems fair. I don't know. I think I will speak for my companions when I say we prefer to know the truth, or at least the important truth, before we start something.
Mm-hmm.
So thank you. I know we may have rumbled you slightly, and I apologize.
I am nothing but impressed. For your part, for his, well, maybe I need to look for a new man, a new grandfather. And she prods him in the side with her elbow. You think this is perhaps a little bit in jest rather than an open blatant threat that you've just signed this person's death warrant.
Dab.
I could make a great song out of this. One that could actually support your claim. You know how a bard song in the right places can, convince people.
Well, it depends. The masks, war masks for anonymity, for secrecy, so that they didn't know who was who. In truth, I do not know what happened to my grandmother. I am hoping that your investigations might lend a light upon that, or even the journal that you bring to me. It seems very much that there was a night of the long knives, as it were, and from the most powerful thieves guild throughout Ibihor to simply not existing. I was told that my mother was smuggled away from the city, hence her surviving, and she had a sickness upon her, a terrible madness. She struggled in the night to sleep, so there was little sense to be made from her ravings.
Okay. Well, I think we're On board.
Yeah.
Yep, ready to go.
Then drink up and he will lead you. She puts her hood back up. You finish your drinks, he puts his hood up, and once everybody's ready, they sort of rise. The conversation you've had has been incredibly quiet, and there is the loud, raucous, sort of screaming, shouting. A fight breaks out. There is singing and banging thunderously of sort of tankards on tables. So no one has particularly overheard this. And again, you just move through and out upon the streets. Through these gunnels and alleys you are let, and it is perhaps about now that if you do have a torch, it might be best to light one. For the torches that light the streets, well, they're not particularly good, and quite often the light is used to draw the unwary towards it so that they may be relieved of their items or even their life. Who would like to light a torch?
I have got a torch. I've got 2 torches. I will light one of the torches.
Okay, so I'm going to set you a timer here.
Still regretting not taking light at level 1, but never mind.
Okay, the timer has started. So, you were taken to an unmarked sort of property, sort of boarded up now, and you very much notice that there is a sign dabbed onto the door. The paint now is peeled away substantially. The sign is a standard sigil or a standard sign throughout Ibhor, and it just basically means unclean. It means that this was a house that once had or housed the diseased, and people best avoid it basically should they not wish to get the whatever pox or plague was upon the household.
Um,
I mean,
I nudge our guide, and that is well long past, I presume, pointing kind of at the symbol.
it was never a thing. It was, according to, kind of looks at his journal again and looks through it. Well, according to this, yes, it was a ruse, I think, anyway. Although they did say they stacked dead bodies to give the aroma of rotting flesh.
Lovely.
Are any of you skilled of making an entrance? We need to get in there somehow.
Then let me at it in the quietest and swiftest terms.
Perfect.
Thorsten is a thief by trade.
Okay. You don't need to make a roll particularly. This door is old and riddled with rot. This place is too foul for even woodworm to exist. The door is when wood has become so sodden, it's almost spongy, and when you push it,
yeah.
it just almost disintegrates. It is kind of like that.
Scoop the door open.
Yeah, capillary action has just sort of made this door. And as you push it, there are a number of bones on the inside of the door that were just scattered in front of the door. You don't think as part of a trap or anything. They just there. The flesh rotted away long ago, and you shine the torch inside, and it's a very basic shack. Sodden inside. There's pooling puddles and the like. A complete wreck. You all make your way in, and he takes you to what appears to be a collapsed trap door, sort of a cellar door that again has just rotted through. Down here, and he goes down. The good news is at least these steps cut from the stone. So whilst erosion has happened, they haven't kind of disintegrated away. And as you descend down into the cellar, it's easy enough to see this hasn't been disturbed in a very long time. There are sort of spider webs and dust and damp all over here.
Before we go down any further, how far along are you planning to go with us? Because I would prefer to have that door upstairs locked behind us, if you don't mind.
Well, I mean, best to look trying to lock that door, but we are only planning to come down to this basement, and I wish to try and find the opening, the secret entrance, so that you may descend to the den below. And then myself and my apprentice here will wait patiently.
You'll wait for us here, or wherever the entrance is.
Well, I believe the entrance is in this basement.
But you will stay in the building, is what I'm saying.
Well, we're out of sight, and it looks like no one has troubled this building in years, so it is safe enough here. I mean, in all honesty, we will give you. How many torches have you got amongst you?
I carry 2.
2 more here, so
I have 1 more, so we have a lit 1 plus 5.
We'll give you 8 hours, and if you do not emerge after that, we will assume you have perished, and we'll have to look for new people.
How gracious.
I mean, it sounds like I am being harsh, but you wouldn't want an old man to suffer this damp for longer than he needed to. Waiting for the dead to never emerge would not be sensible.
I totally agree.
You hear his companion sort of kind of stifle a giggle. So a few moments later, kind of trying to study and keep his book as dry as possible, looking through it, he kind of moves to a set of flagstones, and there he kind of manipulates one of them, and for the first time you hear sort of solid stone begin to move. Everything here has just been so damp and muddy and just not of any kind of real strength or substance. Then this sort of stone opening begins to just move across, and there, looking down, you see a pit to the Shadowdark. Yes, it works. It is actually here. You might need rope. Have you got rope?
Yeah, there's
Yeah.
rope available.
Splendid.
Do neither of you have rope? All I'm thinking is we may, if we use our rope, we have 1 less rope to go with us. If you don't have one, that's not a problem. But if you had one, we could borrow. That would be helpful.
I'm a scholar. I have no use for rope, and certainly if I had rope, I wouldn't be able to climb.
No, it was more. It gets us in, and we leave it there, but we still have 3 ropes. Was my thinking.
Well, you can
It's
always
fine.
take your rope with you. We will wait here, and if you wish to send the rope back up,
Very well.
would you prefer us to seal the entrance when you have gone, or leave it open?
I think I'd prefer it left open, but I'm happy to be. Yeah.
In case it can't be opened from the inside, yes, let us leave the. You feel confident, grandfather. You feel confident that this is safe for you to stay for a good 8 hours. That seems fair. On that basis, let's not make our escape any worse, any longer, should we need to do it at pace. I do ask though, are you aware of any other exits? And maybe this is really a question for Vegeta, if she experienced the den of the Red Masks in her
No, I mean
youth.
she throws the hood off and says,
Oh,
"No, this was before my time. I was not even born when they disappeared. I'm afraid."
Well,
Thorsten remembered, Malcolm didn't.
Yeah. No, that's fine. Just to get the timelines right, basically. It's
So
almost
are
as
we
if,
looking at a rope descent into the darkness then?
yeah, basically. I mean, you could drop a torch down there, but it would take 30 minutes off your torch time as you drop it down and it begins to burn out. They are more than
well,
happy to hold a torch as one of you descend down, or you could attempt a roll to climb down whilst holding a torch. You have all of these options.
I think if we can set up a secure rope descent, I will happily try go down it carrying a torch.
Okay.
Given my
I mean,
I would actually prefer to go down first.
in the dark
In
or
the
with a
dark.
torch?
Well, if I don't know how far down the light goes and how far down the floor is.
Well, all I'm thinking is whoever goes first, if it's a smaller person who is easier to hold, we tie the rope and lower them down rather than have them climb down. Then they can be holding torch to see. So whether
Yeah, both of us
I'm
should be
I'm a
easily
half
able to
orc,
hold
so,
something.
so
Yeah.
it ain't gonna be me, or at
I
least
think
I'm not gonna be the light one.
I think therefore the weedier of dwarfs that I am puts me down the hole first. And I'm more than happy that that's kind of the way he would operate.
Okay.
So
Just as soon as you see something move, just holler and we'll pull you back up.
that sounds like a plan.
Yeah. So then rope around waist, which will still give us 55 odd feet of said rope. So
I love the planning. It makes sense to sort of lower one down first rather than have them try and climb holding a torch. So this just happens. Again, no need for skills to be done. It's sensible. You tie a sturdy knot and you make a harness type affair rather than just trying to wrap it around someone's waist and dissect them as the weight cuts through them. Um, so you descend down, and it descends down a good maybe 30, maybe even 40 feet. So there's a degree of depth that goes down here. It's well under. You are aware that the wet fundamentally is an open sewer. So you know there's no underground sewers down here. So whatever has been cut out of this bedrock isn't going to connect with any kind of sewer system. So this again makes it fairly impenetrable, if you know what I mean. Um, the light from above, well, I suppose you carried the light down, haven't you? So you've got the light. This appears to be a guard room of sorts. You can see there's actually a few weapon racks that again have rotted through. Um, the sandstone sort of walls and ceiling, there's a degree of seepage. Sandstone is kind of like a sponge to liquid, but it's remarkably dry down here. In fact, it is perhaps drier down here than it is actually above you, which is one sort of godsend anyway. Um, there is the appropriate amount of spider webbing and dust as well, seeming that they have told you the truth about no one has been down here for a very long time. It's not like they've sent another group down here, they failed, and you are the
yeah,
next group. You very much get the feel that, yeah, this is, you're the first, you're the chosen ones.
or
Um,
the guinea pigs, depending on how you look at it.
yeah. Now, the only real problem is that you do pick up a door to the east with the light, but you also see behind you something that is a little uncomfortable. you notice that there are burrows that have broken into this room. There are several sizable holes, maybe 2 foot, that have penetrated the sandstone walls. And they just disappear back into the walls, into darkness. Irregular, these are certainly not man-made. Some kind of creature has dug into this chamber. But that is all you can make of it as you initially descend down. Who wants to go next?
How good are you climbing with your twisted arm?
I mean, I'm not the most dexterous of people, but
So just to clarify, this is a simple action. You've got a rope that is down there, so there's no
I'll
rules
manage.
needed.
I'll be fine, I'm sure.
You're more than welcome to add cinematic nonsense to this, but you don't need to make a roll to see
Cinematic
whether
nonsense.
you. I mean that in the most nicest way, rather than. But basically, by nonsense, what I mean is, I could easily say, yeah, you climb down it, but you can make it more interesting. Hence the nonsense, if you so choose.
Yeah. No, I think I'll be fine. Shall I go next, or would you like to go next?
You go. I'll go last and ask them to throw the rope down.
Okay. I go down, and yeah, there's some wincing, but other than that, all is well.
No, you're fine. You climb down. The rope is designed for this. Grappling hook is designed for this. It holds your weight nicely. You descend down, and then it's down to you, Roger. Are you just climbing down?
Yeah, he basically grabs the rope with 2 hands and just hand below hand just lowers himself down, not using his legs at all because the back leg doesn't work.
Totally understand. And you call up to get them to unhook the grappling hook and send it down to you. Is that correct?
Yeah, there should be light enough here to see it coming and catch it, or at least step aside and let it fall to the floor.
They very carefully unhook it and sort of drop it down.
I prefer trying to catch it because of the burrows and trying to make as least noise as possible at this moment.
Sounds a good idea for you to do. So I say they carefully drop it anyway. So you see it coming down, you reel the rope in and phew, manage to stop it striking the floor. So I'm going to try something different with Shadowdark. While we're doing exploring, we're not going to do it in terms of initiative. I think you are all experienced role players, and none of you are shy at coming forward if you have an idea or want to say something. So therefore, the initiative and the turn is really good if it's a new set of players that are not familiar with each other, or if perhaps someone's a little bit kind of shy, and it just means, okay, it's your initiative. What would you like to do? But we'll try it. If it doesn't feel right for Shadowdark, we can go back to it. But for the moment, my gut feeling is that we don't really need that mechanic for this style of game. But
Oh.
I am always open to my mind being changed.
Yeah, no, well, let's give it a try and see how it feels on sort of from our side and then any audience as well.
Yeah. So, you as a collective, you've heard the description of the room. What would you like to do?
So, is there? You said the weapon. There were it's a guard room, and there were weapon racks that have rotted away.
Yeah, that is right.
Is there any weaponry still in this space?
There is. You can sort of see. You see though that the most of the weapons are not in the racks. They've been strewn around, and as you kind of pick off the cobwebs and stuff, you see a grisly sight of some of these weapons are also have bones connected to them, almost as if this was the sign of some kind of small skirmish a long time ago. You don't think any of the bones are animate or anything like that. It's just like yes, there seems to have been a bit of a fight here. But there are a number of weapons, all of them in a very bad state, kind of rusted through. Were you looking for anything in particular?
It was more if there's a roughly serviceable dagger,
Yeah,
I
you,
would
you should
take
be able
one
to.
just to add to my kit, basically.
It's not so much that there's a serviceable dagger, but there's a sharpened piece of metal that has remained that you can use as a dagger for the moment, if you see what I mean.
Yeah.
Maybe like the the sort of severed part of a long sword or a short sword that
Great.
has not fully rusted, and you break a little bit of it off and sort of bang all the kind of sediment and all of the
Sure.
crud
Yeah.
that has grown up. And
Just so I've got another
yeah,
a one-handed weapon now that I've got a torch in my hand. That was
yeah,
all.
absolutely.
Great.
You can
Thank
find that, and the same goes for the rest of
you.
you as well. There's stuff that isn't going to count as an improvised weapon, but is nowhere of any kind of quality.
I think Thorsten is quite attached to the 2 daggers he has been able to acquire, so
Good bit of kit.
quite likes their balance, shall we say.
Absolutely.
So he's comfortable and happy to look to the one exit from this room to the east, the door.
From all you can see, there's just a single exit. Yeah.
Mhm.
Roger would like to know if he can identify from any tracks near the burrows or on the floor, if he has any kind of idea what kind of creatures
Of course,
might come out of the burrows.
you would have to get close to the burrows, really. The good news is the burrows themselves appear to be newish. They appear to have been relatively sort of recent, certainly not 50 years ago. There's still the smatterings of sandstone that has been burrowed out. There's no tracks of sorts, but just simply getting not close to the burrows, but seeing the light pan around and looking in. Yeah, spiders. These are like tunnel web spiders. You can see that it is covered in webbing, and you're not quite sure, but you think you can see something lurking.
Roger takes a few steps back closer to the light and pulls his greatsword.
Oh,
And then says, let's try and get through that door. While you're working on it, I'll keep an eye out for crawly things.
Yeah. So Thorsten has a good look across the door, checks for traps, lockage, that kind of thing.
Mhm.
If he finds nothing of concern, he'll open it, step through.
Okay. So the door itself is warped. A combination of getting damp at times and then drying out and then getting damp again has caused it to sort of twist and strain. It's in a very bad state, and you fairly rapidly realize that it's not locked and neither is it trapped, but it's going to take a little bit of oomph to force it open. Um, it's not going to be challenged to do it. It's just going to make some noise. It's going to be impossible to move through this door without sort of breaking it open a touch.
I can do the umph if needed.
Yeah, would one of the rather more muscular members of my friends fix this door for us? Sorry, it's beyond me. Or unfix this door for us, perhaps.
Yeah, Rocker can do it. He balances on his peg leg and just rams his foot into close to where the lock is and
Perfect.
trying to.
As I say, no real sort of lock. It's just warped and jammed shut. You strike the door with your with your leg. It kind of makes a noise and splinters. Not into 1,000 shards, but just the frame, enough for it to be opened. One assumes you open it and the light spins through, and there's another of this very basic sort of sandstone corridor that leads ahead of you, and then it widens into a sort of rectangular-ish chamber. But the chamber is much bigger. The ceiling height of this is perhaps only about 6 foot at the most, quite possibly close to 5.5 feet. Some of you might even have to sort of duck down a touch. But the chamber beyond stretches much taller, maybe twice the size of that 10 foot. And that is for a reason. For right at the end of this smallish 15-foot chamber, there is a very large statue of what appears to be some kind of warrior. Has a spear sort of resting on the ground. It is covered once again with dust, sandstone, and spider webbing. It looks like it hasn't been disturbed in a long time. And simply just looking at the floor realizes there have been no tracks here either. Again, telling you the same story, that you are the first in 50 years to tread these halls.
As everyone is into this chamber, Roger pushes the door closed with his shoulder.
It kind of attempts to shut and then just opens again. It's just like, yeah, as good as you can. If you want to spend time, you can jury rig it, put a spike in it or something just to keep it properly closed. But to be honest, this warped portal is, if anybody really wants to force their way through it, they're going to be able to do it.
Including 2-foot tall spiders. Yeah.
Oh,
But
yeah.
it would might make noise during their attempt. So
Yeah.
yeah, I think Thorsten might take a few moments to wedge the door shut with a couple of the iron spikes that
Perfect.
from his crawling and his experience of making things open and close, apparently.
Yeah. No, this is very good. I do like the way that you've trapped yourself in this corridor with the big metal statue.
I'd rather have one big metal statue than like 100 2-foot tall spiders.
Yep, I'm on board with that.
I'm pleased to accommodate you in that choice as well.
Might want to go and nudge the statue to see if it comes alive then.
Don't be silly, such things. Surely not.
Too early for that kind of shenanigans.
Well, we'll see. You are in this hallway. You've got the light. Time is burning. What would you like to do?
We'll go up to the statue, or at least get closer to the statue, just to see if there is any plaque or marking or engraving or anything like that, which gives us a bit of information about what it might be, who it might be, what it might be about.
Yeah, very good. There is no plaque, but as you begin to investigate the shadow, especially with the torch, you do see a number of things. Firstly, it's made completely of metal. Perhaps not unusual, but it's not cast. This is more akin to maybe a 8-foot tall suit of armor. It's segmented. It's not just cast from a single block of metal or smelted. You can see joints. That's the first thing that you sort of notice, and that is curious as you all sort of take part in this ritual examination. The second thing you notice is the spear. You have to clear some of the dust and some of the cobwebs from the floor, but the spear isn't resting on the stone flagstones. It's actually pressed into one of them. There is a small circular hole in which the spear fits perfectly. and there appears to be a degree of weight upon it. And then moving around and dusting this thing off, you see in the back of this statue something strange. There's a slot. This is going to take a little bit more examination from someone that is skilled in such things.
Mm.
Uh,
How high up is this slot? Is it like eye height for us or eye height for Thorsten?
It's round about 5-6 foot up. It's kind of in the small of this statue's back.
Still within reach, then. Bring. Thorsten brings the torch round.
Well, Draco is carrying it for you, so you have both hands free.
Ah. Remembering I went
I-
down with it, but yes, you took it. You take it back. Okay, then let us.
Yeah.
I'm also quite tempted, and this might be me, but would the spear be liftable?
Um,
Does it feel like you say there's some weight upon it?
Yeah. Are you going to try, or how are you going to determine whether it's liftable? It certainly seems to be bonded to the gauntlet that's holding it. You don't think it comes out of the gauntlet. You can see that quite easily, but whether you can actually try and lift it out of the hole, I would like a little bit more information of how you are going to try and work that out, or even, the simple answer is I try to lift it out,
Yeah.
but you might not want to do that.
Not without first having a look at the more detail on the rear. So let's have a poke around at potentially mechanical objects.
Okay. So it becomes very apparent to you as you examine this slot. It's akin to a keyhole, but it's not a keyhole. You kind of bang on the back of this and there's no recess. There's nothing to open. And the best thing that you can come up with between all of you really is that maybe some lever or even kind of key goes into it that is a winding mechanism of sorts. You are heard about, and some of those mages that have coin have created automatons that are powered by clockwork. And this must be a very early example of such a thing. I mean, exactly what it does when it's wound up is a whole matter of questions.
As we look along the floor or any shelves or alcoves that are in this room, do we find anything resembling a lever or key?
It's funny you should ask that. The answer is no. The room itself is very, very empty. But what you do notice as you try and find alcoves and stuff is the base, the flagstones that the statue is actually stationed upon, is hollow. If it wasn't for the weight of the statue upon it, you think that you could perhaps uh, open up a recess, or even a hole downwards, even deeper into this place.
the slot in the back.
Mhm.
How big is it?
About an inch, if that.
So would one of the rusty swords from the other room fit in it?
It's just what I was thinking. Would my improvised acquired dagger will I be able to put that in and see if it turns?
Yes, I mean, you only need a piece of metal that is an inch and it's going to fit in the hole. That is a simple statement of fact. Whether it will work is a different matter, and whether it will cause damage to the mechanism is an even more difficult question. How do you want to resolve this? I think we are beginning to ask for some kind of skill. sort of not skill check, because there are no skill checks, an ability check.
Mhm.
Who has
Yeah,
skills with
promote
mechanisms?
Thorsten again for
I mean,
fiddling.
yeah. For the dexterity, we should go to Thorsten, but I'm not terrible when it comes to things like wisdom and intelligence.
Hmm.
I'm just thinking what I would like to try and glean is whether by examining it and examining kind of the edges of the slot, and can I gain any sense of whether there is a specific key or whether it's it's more kind of open use than that, and so it might be
Perfect.
something that fits, might work.
Okay. This
So without
sounds
actually
good.
trying to snap something off in there by accident, I want to try and get an idea of whether it would be a viable option.
Yep. I just want a straight intelligence roll then from you, please, as you begin to try and formulate this.
Okay,
First roll of the night.
it's not the night. Yeah, it's okay.
Oh, nice.
So 12 plus 2, so 14 total.
And I love it when you get a success and then you get the answer that you don't want. So, looking at this, you figure it out. You're going to really need the right key. You could attempt it. It would be very challenging and it could be quite disastrous if you fail. But with the right key, it would work. What you also get with that roll, though, which is very important, is this mechanism is trapped. If you were to wind it clockwise, which is the instinctive way of winding it, something untoward would happen. You just kind of look at this. The mechanism, the way that the scuffs on the device have been, they've always been wound anti-clockwise instead, meaning
Okay.
that is really the correct way of winding this thing. But the mechanisms could wind both ways. So you kind of figure that out with your sharp mind.
Okay, and I will communicate all of that to my two companions.
Very
So we
nice.
need a key, and we need to turn it widdershins anti-clockwise. Otherwise, something terrible will happen.
I step closer to the only door leading out of this room. I think back to the guard room.
Yeah.
Since I think the key must be there. If it's not in this room, then the only other option we have in searching it is the other room.
Mm.
So there's no other exit from this room either.
Oh well, there is the potential exit below you, but that seems to be blocked by the big metal thing.
Okay. Okay. If I've got the torch, I'm going to stand at the door between the two to try and cast light into both, so that none of us is left in complete darkness. And do my best whilst being the torchbearer also to cast about for a kind of a more thorough search on floor and any other potential recesses for the key that we need.
Absolutely. So you start searching around for places that it could be.
Yeah, all the while keeping an eye on the direction of the burrows.
Mhm.
Be some weird magpie spider stolen it because it was shiny, isn't it?
Right, it's funny you should say that. Where the burrowing has happened, there seems to have been a little bit of a collapse. They sort of burrowed through, and over time, certain things have collapsed. Your only thought, having searched this entry chamber thoroughly, is that if there is a key here, it is probably under that collapse somewhere amongst these burrows. Now,
How far apart are the burrows?
Fairly. It's kind of little crawl spaces that twist and wind. It's difficult to see beyond them because they are full of webbing itself.
If there's a couple of feet between them, I will switch my greatsword for a longsword and a shield, so that when I have to sift through stuff just below a burrow, I can block that burrow with a shield.
Nice. So it seems
Carefully and as silently as possible.
wow. Carefully can be done silently, crawling through a 2-foot wide diameter hole, destroying the webs that these spiders are no doubt web sensitive to in the dark, when the spiders are probably dark adapted. It sounds horrific to me.
I thought the collapse was beneath the burrows, not in the burrows.
No, it's the burrows have formed part of this collapse. You're going to have to make your way through the burrows to the collapsed area. You could spend a big time excavating the collapse, absolutely. Maybe days. Large stones moving.
I sigh and I just try and get to the nearest collapsed bit, and just start sifting through looking for the key.
Well, if that's the case, I would bring the light closer and sort of suggest to Thorsten we should all move into the light and also be there in case of backup. But offer as much light as it is possible to do so, considering this is a small burrow into,
Yeah, and with all the disturbing of the stones of the collapse, you begin to hear scurrying. The webs begin to move and things begin to emerge from the burrows. Can we roll initiatives, please?
No.
No.
Right.
Everybody's so excited for initiative. We don't want to fight. We want to be friendly.
6.
These spiders would count as giant spiders.
Right. Do we add something to our initiative? And if so, what do we add to our initiative?
Dexterity, I believe.
That was it. I thought you were going to say that. Brilliant. Cool. -4 it is.
Thorsten has a
Mine's a -2, but yeah, bad enough.
Okay. It's not too bad.
This is going to be very interesting. I shouldn't laugh evilly. Okay, so the spiders. Their spiders have much better dex than you. They have +3. So we will roll this. Get a 6 + 3. So that is only a 9. What did everybody get?
6.
Drago got a 15.
Drago got a 15. Thorsten, what did you get?
14.
Okay, and then a 6 for her. So Drago, then Thorsten, then the spider, then Roger. I say the spider. There might be others, but we will see. Certainly, it's quite horrific as well because you would have all thought that a 2-foot spider would be horrific. I think we could all agree, really, that whether you even like spiders or not, a 2-foot spider is horrific. But of course, spiders can squeeze, and as the legs come out, this is no 2-foot spider. This is a good 5-foot spider as it finally emerges, sort of oozing out of this little tunnel. But Drago, you get to respond to this thing emerging out of there.
Great. Yay.
What is your response?
Okay, how is it emerging into the sort of the main guard room?
It's emerging into the main guard room. Your investigations has fully disturbed it now.
Yeah. Okay, what am I going to do? I am going to attempt to hit it with my staff.
Okay. Sounds appropriate.
Just sort of a jab
Um,
to keep as far away as possible. Try and just squish.
I'm going to just read you the description from the Shadowdark call rule book. Bulbous abdomen and 8 spindly legs, dwells high in trees or caves and ambushes prey, capturing them to eat later. So there's a positive here. It is probably not going to kill you. It's going to drag you into the crawl spaces to slowly eat you later.
Right. Yeah. Cool.
But in the meantime, you want to bonk it. So
In the meantime, I'm going to try and poke one of its eyes out.
yeah, give us a roll.
Okay. And it's plus strength to my
Mhm.
attack roll, isn't it? Yeah. Okay. So, oh, hang on. Oh, I get a +1 because I am mighty because of my orcish background. So actually, that cancels out my -1, so it's just a straight roll.
Perfect.
Okay.
Okay.
14.
A 14 is a hit.
Marvelous.
Can you give me some?
My staff is a 1d4. Oh well, that should be +1. So I get, yeah, it's +1 to damage as well because of my mighty feat. So that's 2 rather
2
than 1
damage.
point of damage.
Okay. So you kind of prod it and hit it. It's a strike. It strikes true. It sort of hisses at you. Its spindly legs vibrate. You're not sure whether it's calling for reinforcements or frightened of you. It is damaged, but it has not been put off its desire to consume you. Thorsten, you'll go.
If I attack it, will it be considered unaware of me at this point? Or is it?
I've just jabbed it in the eye.
Yeah.
One of its 8 eyes.
As much as I kind of want it to be the answer, yes. No. I mean, this is Shadowdark. I mean, there is a light in this room you weren't attempting to hide before.
Yep.
There's a lot of webbing as well, and it's got webbing senses, so it just doesn't sit right.
Yep.
And believe me, I genuinely would love you to be attacking from hidden, but not in this
I wasn't.
circumstance.
Perhaps should have said that out loud. I shall remember that.
Yeah.
Used to playing the sneaky guy. However,
I mean, you could argue that the fact that you were so quiet, you were really in character at that time and didn't want to speak up because you were in stealth. I probably wouldn't believe you then either, but you could have tried it.
all attempts to gain advantages aside, I still think it's worth Thorsten stabbing at the spider, attempting to affect damage enough that it crawls away again, if nothing else.
Yeah.
I am fortunate that a dagger can be used as a finesse weapon. Therefore, I am able to use my dexterity as my modifier to attack.
Please do. Oh, nice.
To reach the total of 19.
19 hits. Give me some damage.
Unfortunately, it is still, I don't get it to the damage, it's just a d4. But I strike good and true for 3 points of damage.
Okay, so a total of
and I then
5.
back away again. Sorry.
That's okay. I think with that, it is taken by surprise by the amount of aggression that it's got. It just hunting for a little bit of food. So I am going to make a morale roll here. It's not quite 50% of its hit points, but it kind of emerged. Then suddenly you just went, it. So I believe morale is wisdom, DC 15. It needs to make or higher. But that's what I'm rolling now anyway. No. So with that, as long as no one else is going to sort of corner it or force it, it just emerges back. It kind of creeps in. Its long legs begin to retract into its burrow again. And well done, you scared it off. It's going to lick its wounds.
Isn't it the other way around, that if it rolls higher than 15, then it flees?
I don't know. One assumes that. Just look up the morale rules. It doesn't matter either way. I think with that, it's with the nature of it, it has retreated for the moment anyway. That doesn't mean that it might not seek you out when you least expect it. But for the moment, you have driven it off.
It will
Was a
flee
giant
if
spider.
they
It's now a
fail.
giant spider with a grudge.
Yeah.
So you will know that you have got this at the back of your mind now, that in a moment of weakness it might arrive and try and drag you away for food later. I'm happy with that, even if morale works slightly differently in this circumstance.
No, it worked as you did. I mean, I looked it up.
So was it
It
correct?
just, yeah, it flees if it fails the DC 15.
Yeah. That's kind of what I thought. This is Shadowdark. Things don't want to die. They don't stand there needlessly as a bag of hit points until you have finished them off. But they hold grudges. They are definitely aware of you now. There is a food source that it's not seen in a while. What you would be aware of, seeing this spider, I mean, that is perhaps another way out. If they has these burrows, there is probably some of it leading to the surface. I'm not saying that you might want to use that as an exit point, but it's only an idea. I'm just desperately trying to get you to crawl through some spider web burrows because it'd be horrific.
It's an option.
I know I'm not working.
Are giant spiders solitary creatures? Is the question that Thorsten is asking himself a lot, or is there likely to be more of them?
You are aware that in nature, spiders tend to be relatively solitary. They tend to come together to breed. The female of the species tends to devour the male. And then lots of eggs are laid, and they're not solitary anymore as the eggs spawn, and then they all go their way. So I don't know, there might be a clutch of eggs and a load of little mini giant spiders coming for you very soon. Who knows?
Great. Cool.
Sorry, I digress.
No, it's all great.
You crack on with your excavations of this collapse, and having defeated the threat at the moment, time ticks by, and eventually you find the thing that you are looking for. Well done.
Got it. And I crawl back out. The shield still between me and the rest of the burrow.
What you all see, you hear Roger's voice, but this spectral form crawls out of this hole, covered in gossamer. I got it. As this webbing kind of moves in the breeze, you are covered head to toe. Head to toe in this this horrible webbing, and you have to rip it off. And it was sticky, uncomfortable, but not detrimental to you. Congratulations.
Not too bad. I thought it might have helped with more armor.
Yeah, fair enough. Okay, what is your next port of call?
The statue again. Try and key it up.
Just before we go to the statue, just the entrances to the burrows. How feasible would it be, with some strategic jabbing of staff, to try and disturb them enough that the entrances collapse?
That sounds like a very good idea. It would.
I would like to try and do that if I can. I don't want to spend hours trying to deconstruct. It's more just to
The,
collapse them to slow them down.
the reality of the situation is this is sandstone, as I've discussed before. It is weak. There has been a collapse already. You should be able to do this relatively fast and easily.
Okay.
You are aware that this spider can burrow, so it will be able to dig its way out again at some point. But slowing it down so it doesn't get tempted to follow you is a beautiful idea and should
That
be
was my
rewarded.
thinking.
Yeah. No, I'm not going to take that from you. So you start jabbing, and there's chunks of rock that sort of fall down, and you make fairly quick work of these holes. So you have defeated that foe quite cleverly for the moment, anyway.
Rojar switches to his greatsword again.
Yep, excellent. Okay, you make your way back to the statue, this clockwork automaton. Who wants to insert the key and who's going to turn it?
I don't have the strength, my good friends.
Well, you did the work to find it. Why don't you do the honors? Just anti-clockwise.
Rojar just practices so you can see it that it turns the right way. He's not the smartest of blokes, so yeah, that's it.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Then he enters the key and goes anti-clockwise.
Yeah, and this is a number of rotations. You wind and wind and wind and wind and wind, and you can hear something is happening in there. It's kind of strange. It's just not clockwise. It seems to be causing metal to scrape against something, and you can all feel a degree of static building up. Your hair begins to sort of move a little bit. You begin to realize that had you done it clockwise, this thing would have perhaps released a large electrical pulse. But best avoided. At full capacity, though, you sort of step back, and this quite heavy piece of metal seems to just make the smallest of gestures. It raises its arm, lifting up the spear, and as it does, you see that the spear was pressing down what appears to be some kind of button of sorts, some kind of trigger, and it rises up, and as it does and forms kind of flat with the flagstone, you hear a grinding of stone, and the entirety of the statue and flagstones begins to rotate to one side, once again leaving a dark abyss for you to descend into.
I elect again to go first and prefer to have Drago behind me with a torch. I keep my sword at the ready as we go down.
Is it steps down or is it a drop?
There is steps down, so you don't need to use your rope this time to clamber down.
Yeah, then I'm happy with that arrangement, and kind of hold torch high and forward so it's giving as much light as we can, or low, and however,
Okay.
Howsoever the best light the way, that's what I do.
You descend down the steps again, descend deep again, and you feel you are substantially deep into the ground now. The perfect place to not be noticed. You eventually end, the stairs kind of spill out onto a corridor going north and south. You can see that there are two doors, one to the north, one to the south. The corridor full once again of cobwebs and dust. Beyond that, silent, the light from your torch again spilling out. A choice of two different ways to go.
Are there any marks on the wall or office this way?
That would be nice, but you look around and no. You do begin to notice now, though, that rather than sandstone, sort of you have to move the cobwebs out of the way and look. There's nothing that is apparent down here because of just the dust and the debris. If you want to see anything clearly, you have to actively do this. You realise that whilst it's no doubt sandstone and beyond, the walls have got stone tiles now, and they are black, of high quality. It seems that this area of this complex is the proper area. There is no sign of damp. This better stone, which quite possibly is high quality marble, seems to be resistant to the sewer waters and the like. Plus, you might well be below the water table now.
Oh, right. Mm.
So yeah, so a door to south, but there's no signage. There's nothing to indicate which is the better of the two ways to go.
Um,
Eeny, miny, mo.
Yeah. Thorsten.
we're looking for the boss's office or the boss's bedroom, I suppose. So we go one way, and if it doesn't look like we're heading in the right direction, we try the other, I guess.
Yeah. So Thorsten approaches the door to the north,
Okay.
happy to, say, do the check for traps, check for locks.
Yep. You move up to there. The door is in slightly better condition than the door to the room of the statues. Up, and your torch goes out. You are plunged into darkness.
Okay.
I light another torch and hand it to Drago.
Okay.
Put the other one on the floor.
Yeah. Another torch.
Drago, the man of torch.
Another torch is lit and the light flares up again. The door is of a slightly better quality, as I say, perhaps not rotted through as much. There's no real ornamentation upon it, and doesn't appear to be any banding upon it. Doesn't appear to be locked either, or trapped.
Then Thorsten makes his way through.
I hold my sword ready and follow him as close as I can.
As you try to push the door open, it hits something, and you sort of look, the torchlight sort of scanning in. You see that there's the remnants of a corpse behind it, and you kind of have to jiggle the door back and forth and get a spear around just to stop it from sort of blocking it. It's kind of a pile of bones again, but this time a substantial amount of them, and with the heavy door, it kind of makes it a little bit awkward. You push it open, and then you see there's a smallish chamber again, no more than maybe 20 foot by 20 foot, if that. So near, the torchlight lights it all. You can see there's another door in the western wall, but this appears to once again be a place of battle, and this time it's much more obvious. There are the remnants of 3 humanoid creatures, and something else, something that hasn't quite rotted through, something that is made of chitin or bone, and some kind of organic substance that even time has not decayed. It is a twisted monstrosity of a undescribable shape, large as well. Probably if it stood upright, standing at least 12 foot tall. It's not moving. You look at it carefully. It does not react to the light or your presence here. But this thing is foul.
Don't touch it, I whispered to my two compatriots.
Mhm.
I have no intention of doing so.
Is there any furniture left in this room? Like,
What stuff hasn't rotted away? There would have been some kind of tables, and again, you think this is some chairs. This would have perhaps been a proper guard room, an entrance to the den proper of the masks. Most of the furniture smashed. You know, there was this very large creature in here, and the signs of battle. It doesn't take much to see that many of the humanoid bones suffered hideous wounds that cut so deep that the very bones themselves were shattered or gnawed upon.
Is there any looking at the space and the wreckage?
Mhm.
Is there any indication of? Is there any entrance of this creature in this room? And if not, is there any indication of did the battle spill into this room from somewhere else?
You
If that makes sense.
you look at the room and try and do your best impression of CSI, and
Yeah.
the
Are there any blood
whole
spatterings?
yeah the whole of this reeks of sorcery. You can't see that this creature could have made its way down here, so your
Yeah.
only your only thought is this has been brought here from beyond, summoned from some blasphemous place.
can we open the west door without disturbing the creature?
Carefully, yes. Carefully.
I will go over and motion Torsten to check the door while I keep a very wary eye out on the creature.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Great sword ready to slice at it or stab it.
Yeah.
Thorsten
No,
very ready to quietly as possible leave this room.
Yep.
Yeah. And I'm kind of giving light as best possible, but also there with staff slightly awkwardly in one hand, but ready to jab or whatever is needed.
Perfect. Okay, the thing is unmoving. It's skeletal now. You're sure that there has or was some other organic stuff that has rotted,
Hmm.
but even so, whatever this fell being was, um, who knows what can bring it back. Um, so do you all move to the west then?
Yeah, if I
Okay.
can get through the door without causing any chaos.
Yeah, you can
Yeah.
squeeze through, and yet another strange chamber, again decorated with the signs of disuse. You know, the cobwebs, the dust, and the like. But it moves no more than sort of 10 feet, and then opens up into a circular chamber, perhaps not circular, cylindrical chamber. Again, these beautiful flagstones moving along. Um, the chamber itself, though, is tall again, perhaps rising up maybe 20 or so feet. Um, you can make out two things, not particularly clearly because of the mess that is in here. Upon the floor, you can see there is now a very threadbare rug, probably once a very expensive rug from one of the carpet makers to the north. Directly above it, almost directly above it, fitted to the ceiling is a red mask, a sizable red mask. This is about 5 foot in length, covering most of the ceiling. Again, cobwebs dangling down from it.
I'm gonna hazard a guess we're in the right place.
It does seem to remind me of what stories I have heard. So, hopefully, not too much more work to find said journal.
Hmm.
He says,
So is
pray
this?
whatever gods exist.
Is there are there ways like insight out of and other kind of connections and stuff in this, or did this just appear to be just a large chamber
It's just
and no
this
entrances?
circular chamber. The only entrance is the one from you within. You can, well, I'm going to say, you tell me what you are doing to explore it, should you wish to.
I'd say we stick together, the three of us, and just make our way around the wall and look for any furniture that might contain journals or other things of value, because, of course, we need the other things of value as well.
The furniture is non-existent. The only thing is this rug in the center of the room. No furniture, no tables, no chairs, no nothing.
Then
yeah,
let's lap the wall,
Yes.
looking for any potential panels or switches or these. This is a thieves guild, for want of the better term. They would be good at hiding entrances and things. So
Yeah, like trapdoors on the rugs.
yeah, so let's make a look around the wall, and then if there's nothing on the wall, then we think about the carefully looking at the floor and the rug and the mask, which is potentially suspect. Let's be honest.
Yes.
Because
So
it's looking at the rug, I assume. Is the mask facing down?
absolutely.
So the mask is looking at the rug, but I think it's probably worth checking the walls first.
Yes.
As you examine the walls, this marble is beautiful, even in this age here. And as you move the cobwebs and the muck from it, there is a nice sheen to it, catching in your torchlight. But of course, it's solid, and as you tap around it, the stone doesn't tell any tales. What you do notice, though, with your thorough examination of the wall as you move round it, is it's not the wall itself; it's the entranceway. You move the dust and the cobwebs off the floor, and there is a small groove that completes the circular chamber, almost as if it should somehow rotate round.
Yeah. There's only one door, one way into this chamber, but this chamber shifts rotation to allow access to other spaces.
Then we need to find the engine for making it move.
Yeah. Okay. I guess look at the floor and the rug covering said floor.
We might need to lift the said rug.
Mm.
Did you say there was a nest on top of the rug?
No, there's dust and there's kind of cobwebs, but there's nothing upon the rug. Well, I say nothing because you get close to the rug and you start brushing it down a little bit to examine it sort of closer. It's very threadbare, beautiful, would have been worth a fortune if it was not in such a state. But the quality of the rug has lasted through the times, and you basically notice that embroidered into the rug are three concentric circles, and there is a script running around each concentric circle in common tongue. The first outer script basically says if 11 plus 2 equals 1, what does 9 plus 5 equal? The second reads, what is it that given 1, you have either 2 or none. And then last, right in the center, you cannot keep me until you have given me. What am I?
I think I know the answer to the third one.
I think I know the answer to the third one.
Oh, that to some extent, that is the easy one. The first one read, if 11 plus 2 equals 1, 9...
What does 9 plus 5 equal?
Yeah,
Correct.
so 14.
Perhaps riddles are not best for a live stream as everybody descends into thought and silence. So I think this is the perfect point that we take a break. If that is okay, you can go get some drinks, do a bio break and everything else. And what we will do is return in a few minutes' time, and we will see if you have managed to work out the answers. No cheating. This is Shadowdark. Player information and character information are combined, and if you struggle for any of these, I will be more than happy for you to make rolls. But if you can work them out, you are I'm more than happy for you to do that, because that is how this game works. So thank you very much, everybody, for watching. I'm going to attempt with my very rubbish video editor to link the two parts together. If that doesn't happen, part 2 is also uploaded. Go watch it now. We will catch you all in a few minutes' time. Bye for now.